Hi, everybody. It's Dan Cirucci. We're live on Facebook, on Twitter, and on my YouTube channel. And I'm here with Christine Flowers. But before I do anything else, hi, Christine.
Hi, darling.
Before I do anything else, I want to make sure that we are on Facebook and we are on Twitter and all of that because I'm just, you know, there we are. Wait. There we are. So we are on Facebook, and let me make sure we're on Twitter as well. I have to go to my homepage on Twitter and let me see. Wait a minute.
Are we there?
Yes, we are on. Well, wait a minute. No, we're not. Let me see.
We're not. You know, I comb my hair for nothing?
I'm looking to see if we're on Twitter, the now known as X. Um, let's see. Oh, I'm sure I'm going to my home page and I'm not really seeing it there yet
Hmm.
on Twitter. Um, why? I don't know. I'm sure I was connected and unless I'm not looking in the right place. But
I've never gone live on Twitter. I've gone live on Facebook. I don't know how to go live on Twitter. I know they have this
well,
thing called Twitter
it
Spaces.
might be no. This is with I'm with StreamYard here, and it's supposed to be picking it up on both of these um, channels. Let's see.
Well, let
Oh
me.
no, it says something's wrong. It
Oh,
says something's wrong. Some destinations a premium account. Oh, this is something new. A
what?
premium account on X is required to create a live broadcast on their platform. So unless I upgrade to a premium account, I cannot be seen. We cannot be seen on X anymore. This is a new, this is something new.
Thanks, Elon.
And this is very, very unfortunate. I don't agree with it, but this is something I guess that's been put in by
Elon.
Elon Musk.
He
Yes,
needs
thank
to
you,
make money.
Elon. You're really getting to be a bit greedy now.
Yeah, and very annoying, to be honest.
But what
Um,
I'm going to do is I'm going on here to Facebook now, and I'm going to put this as a public. I'm going. I'm putting it out as public so anybody can see it on Facebook. And now also, Christine, you can go onto Facebook and you can share to your Facebook page what's happening right now.
where would I go to share? Like, where would I get it to share? Because
Well,
I'm
you
afraid to move this because the last time I did that, I lost you.
don't do anything. Don't do anything because it's also now streaming live on my YouTube channel.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's enough. And the next time we do this, I'll do it live on Facebook and on LinkedIn instead of
Hmm.
X.
Well,
So we'll be on LinkedIn.
if it's on your YouTube page, then I can get the link and I can post it on YouTube. I can post it on Facebook, right?
Um,
Or your Facebook
yes,
page, or
yes.
just tag
No,
me.
if it's on my YouTube page, you could get the link and post it on Facebook. Yes,
All
I'm
right.
now going see what you get by upgrading. Stream to more platforms. Wait a minute. Remove this destination from the stream. Yes. Now, I go to LinkedIn. This can get to be crazy. And I supposedly add that save changes. And we're now live on LinkedIn. So there you go. We're still on 2 channels. All right. Now, a lot has happened. The last time we spoke, Christine, it was the night of the debate. And of course, that was a momentous night. And you and I both agreed that we said that within minutes of the beginning of the debate, we said that this is over, that it was significant, and that Biden had a disastrous night. And you later wrote and talked about, Christine, how debates matter. But do you think this was perhaps the most momentous presidential debate ever?
No question. We remember the debates between Ronald Reagan and his competitors because of his way with words, his mastery of language, the zingers that he would get. And we remember the one, and I do not remember, I think it was Lloyd Benson who said, I knew John F. Kennedy.
Right.
I love John F. Kennedy.
Right.
You're no John F. Kennedy. I mean, we remember these snippets and clips from debates. We even remember Sarah Palin against Joe Biden 16 years ago, and she did quite the good job. I don't think she was given the credit that she deserved.
That's right.
But nothing as momentous and monumental and really paradigm shifting has occurred. Excuse me, with the same weight, I think, and significance as that debate a month ago. Really,
Yeah, Peggy Noonan said it was, and she's seen a lot of debates. She's right. She goes all the way back, to 1960, as I do. Maybe not. I certainly go all the way back to the first big televised debate, 1960. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was 14 years old at the time. Okay. And of course, I did watch it. I was a big John F. Kennedy fan.
Yeah.
So that, was significant just for being the first, and people remember all kinds of things from it. But no debate has ever had this kind of impact. But I also want to ask you, Christine, because there's been speculation about this.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very, very early in the year debate. The rules were very structured.
Mm-hmm.
It was not sponsored by the Commission of Presidential Debates. It was done by CNN. People are saying now this was a setup. This was a setup between perhaps Biden's enemies within and perhaps CNN or whatever to set him up for the fall. Not for the autumn, but for the fall. Okay.
The actual fall, yeah. I heard that, and at first I poo-pooed it because I really do hate conspiracy theories. I am one of those who are extremely skeptical, and conspiracy theories to me are dives into rabbit holes, and they really, to me, they're indicative of an uncurious mind. But lately, with everything that's happened since then, I am persuaded that there is a possibility, not a probability, but a legitimate possibility that at least one of the reasons that they scheduled this debate as early as they did was sort of like a test drive to see whether or not Biden really was going to be able to run the race and complete the race. I think this was one of their ways of saying, let's see if Joe still has it. I do not believe, unlike many conservatives, that this was, a setup from the very beginning. They knew exactly what they were going to do. The dominoes were all lined up, and boom, 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 everything fell. I do not believe that. However, I do believe that there were some nefarious reasons besides the more obvious ones, that they were trying, I think, in some ways, to kill two birds with one stone, to go
Mhm.
after Donald Trump, because I think that they thought that, post conviction, they would be able to sort of put him up there as the convicted felon, and he was going to go
Mhm.
crazy again, and people would remember what they had before and maybe go, oh, be afraid. And also, as I said before, to see if Biden would really be able to hold up. And I think that it worked unbelievably, not well, but effectively for them, because they saw how bad, how compromised Biden was. We said this after the debate.
No, yeah. So they said, let's go with an early debate, and let's see how he does. Let's see how he
Right.
holds up.
That's what
And
I think. That's what I think happened.
yeah,
Plus, there was
I
no
think that
audience.
could very well be.
Dan,
Now,
my question for you,
yeah,
because
what?
you're the
Yeah,
expert here.
yeah.
What significance do you think not having an audience had on this? Did it put more of a focus on the candidates themselves and not allow applause, or not allow,
Mhm.
audience reaction to sort of dilute the performance of the two candidates? What do you think?
Well, first of all, I really liked the format. Um, I just felt that it was more focused. Uh, that they weren't playing to the crowd. I mean, Trump is great for playing to the crowd,
Yeah.
but I think that it also, in a weird way, it wound up helping Trump because he was freed. He didn't
Yeah.
have to play to the crowd. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, somebody must have told Trump, listen, when Joe's talking and he's stumbling and bubbling, just be quiet, which is what
Yes.
he did. And without an audience, and the fact that the microphones were shut off when the other person was speaking, the quiet was all that more significant. So
Right.
I like the format. I hope that they keep the format. I know the next debate is supposed to be on ABC with Georgie Boy Stephanopoulos. We'll see how this all pans out now that we have a new candidate on the other side. But I I liked it, and I thought it. I actually thought, in a weird way, it actually helped Trump
Well,
because
and remember, after the debate, you and I both said we did. We liked the format, and we
yeah,
even complimented Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, because, I mean, maybe you have low expectations, but I think they did a very good job, and I think that they let Biden be Biden, tragically for him, and they also let Trump be Trump. And I think you're right. Trump was told, and he also has that intuition. He's a very intuitive character.
oh yes,
Once he saw what Biden was doing, he basically said to himself, he's committing suicide. I don't need to help kill him. I'm just going to stand
right,
by and watch him completely deteriorate. And
right,
then, and we did not have the hindsight the last time we spoke, because it was right after the debate, to see what would then happen as they tried to fix it. And they had desperately, they had the George Stephanopoulos interview, where George was surprisingly, he shivved him. He was not very helpful at that debate, at the interview. And then the Lester Holt interview. And then supposedly that press conference where he called President Zelensky President Putin. And it just got worse and worse and worse,
yeah.
to the
I
point
think the
that,
press. I think the press conference was the linchpin now, or the tipping point. I think the press conference was the tipping point where he introduced Zelensky as Putin.
yeah,
Because they said in the other interviews he did just good enough. He wasn't great, but he got by.
right.
But now I want to switch to the assassination, and of course the question. Well, where were you when the assassination attempt happened, Christine?
I was shopping at Nordstrom Rack in Center City, and I was looking at earrings, and I get a text from my sister that was a very simple text, and it said, Trump was shot. 3 words. And I looked at it again, and I thought I didn't see it correctly. And I started crying in the middle of Nordstrom Rack. I
Wow.
started crying. I could not get a hold of myself because at that point we didn't know what the situation was, the health. Um, and I had feared this for so long, Dan, because and I wrote a column about this, the rhetoric, the heated rhetoric that came from the left against Donald Trump, the hatred, the Trump derangement syndrome, the insistence on calling him a convicted felon, a rapist, the insistence on calling him a threat to democracy that needed to be neutralized. Those were words that were used over and over again on cable news, in the newspapers, in editorials, and on Facebook and on Twitter. And the continued use of that dangerous rhetoric
And comparing him
convinced
to
me
Hitler.
it was a it was an assassination foretold, an attempt foretold. And I started crying because I thought at that point, I said, oh my God, I don't know if he's hurt. He's a 78-year-old man. God, what happened? Thank God I found out later on he was safe. Tragically, Corey Comparatori was killed, innocent rally goer, and 2 people were injured. But that's where I was. I was in the city, and the immediate reaction, Dan, my body I started shaking and I started crying.
Wow. Wow. Well, I was on vacation with my family in Hilton Head, but I did have the rally on live, and I was in a new place. I mean, I had just unpacked. And so I was saying to my wife, well, where's the cold drinks? And the place, we had so many people there with my 7 grandchildren and so forth and so on. And they were downstairs in the garage in the other refrigerator. And I was like, oh my God, I got to go downstairs. And I was watching the rally. Well, in the 2 minutes that I went downstairs, that's when the thing happened. And I came up and I saw them like pushing Trump to the ground. And Carol was only glancing at it. She wasn't watching it intensely. And she said, oh, I don't know, like maybe a bug bit him or something.
That's what they
And
thought.
so, but then when they got him up, I said, no, 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 a bug. This was not a bug. This is major. And the minute that I saw the blood, Christine, I thought, okay, he was hit in the head. And now he is in a state of shock or trauma, and he doesn't realize what he's doing. And even after he raised his hand and raised his fist, that wasn't convincing to me because I felt he's in trauma. He's in a state of shock. He doesn't know what he's doing, and in a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes, he's going to just go. Okay, it's like he's going to black out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I thought happened. I thought he was definitely hit somewhere in the head because there was quite a bit of blood. And
It was incredibly
so
scary.
I was extremely, extremely upset and a total and complete nervous wreck. I was a complete nervous wreck.
I
My
was
hands
too,
were
Dan.
shaking. I could not steady myself.
Again, it was because I knew that this was inevitable. You cannot spend months and years, the 4 years of his administration, you cannot demonize and dehumanize a person the way that Donald Trump was dehumanized by the media and by Democrats and by never Trumpers on the right, who I don't even consider the right. They're not. They're just some bizarre, strange cult-like coven. But when you do that to someone and you demonize them, you then do not feel bad when something bad happens. And in fact, you sometimes feel that maybe you're justified in taking this person out. Now, that being said, I'm fairly certain that the young man that shot Trump was mentally disturbed, as so many of these shooters are. But that does not get Democrats and the left, progressives, off the hook in this, or the media, because a tortured, diseased mind is much more susceptible to suggestions, to these influences and this rhetoric than someone like you or I. Well, I don't know if I include myself in that, because I'm sometimes called not not normal, not sane, but someone who is not suffering from any kind of mental disease. So I do blame the left, and I do blame the rhetoric, and I wrote a column about that, and I got enough pushback from people saying, how dare you say that Democrats were the reason for the assassination attempt? Not saying that they were the only reason, but in asylum law, we have something called one central reason. And then we have something called, you can have different reasons for persecution. So someone could be persecuted because they want your money, and also because they hate your race. And as long as there's a central reason that is they hate your race, that's the basis for the asylum, then it doesn't matter how many other things contributed to your harm. Everything has a purpose and a point. And so that rhetoric from the left was instrumental and had a key role to play in a presidential candidate almost being killed. And I'm sorry, Dan, I hold that grudge against the left. I hold that grudge against the Democrat Party. I hold that grudge against Never Trumpers. And it's going to take a very long time for me to look at these people with any kind of equanimity.
And they're doing it again now. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Kamala is out on the warpath now, and she's starting again. Going out. Basically saying that he's a criminal. That's what she's doing. She's saying, I prosecuted criminals. I was a prosecutor. I know Donald Trump's type. I know his type. In other words, she's saying he's a criminal. He's a criminal. And her audiences, and this was happening today and it happened yesterday, are saying, lock him up, lock him up. So it's, there hasn't been any diminution of the rhetoric. There was some diminution of the rhetoric on his part. There hasn't been any diminution of the rhetoric now, especially on her part. And she is absolutely ferocious. And I have to say, to me, she's coming across as bloodthirsty. Okay?
She is. Can I say something? I'm a woman, okay? I keep seeing on social media, and it's coming from men, okay? And it's making me really sick. There's this meme going around that says, when you say offensive things about a woman in a position of power and authority, she doesn't see it, but your daughters and your nieces and your sisters see it. And it is so offensive to me, all of these girl dads out there who are out there trying to silence criticism, legitimate criticism of Kamala Harris. And there is so much. I hope we have time to talk about it, because as an immigration attorney, I'm going for the jugular on this woman. She is a debacle, disgrace. If we elect her, we might as well just open the borders and lose a country, okay?
Well, all they have to do is go back, and I hope the Republicans do this, go back on her previous statements. There is such a wealth of audio, video. It's so devastating that you almost don't know where to begin. But now I want to switch gears a little, because I want to move along. I want to talk about Trump's vice presidential pick. I have to say, personally, I was sort of hoping that he would pick Rubio.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, okay. So and Christine, we didn't even, you and I hadn't even talked about this, but
Yeah,
we were on the same wavelength.
of
We were
course
on the
we
same
are.
wavelength. However, after he picked Vance, I was concerned. I was concerned. Um, but I thought that in his big important speech, that Vance did a good enough job. I gave him a B plus.
Right.
I don't
No,
know how you felt.
um, I, and it's a shame because I had such high expectations only because he's such a good orator and such a good writer. His memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, I've read and I'm in the process of rereading it now with hindsight. He's so talented. And I was underwhelmed by his speech. I was incredibly moved when he talked about Mama, his grandmother.
Yeah.
The moment with his mother, who had been battling addiction issues all of her life, that was incredibly deeply moving. So when he became J.D. Vance of Hillbilly Elegy, the kid who wrote the book, and he was sort of channeling his Appalachian childhood, I was I was so happy. It reminded me of Sarah Palin when she was up there talking about, Wasilla Main Street and her beautiful baby boy, Trig, who was born with Down syndrome. It really humanized him. But I wasn't as impressed with some of his, what I thought was sort of like kind of run of the mill commentary about some policies and things like that. However, in retrospect, I think had I not known who he was and had I not read Hillbilly Elegy, I might have had less high expectations and then, had a more sanguine approach to his speech. Because let's
Mhm.
face it, when Sarah Palin gave her speech on September 5th, 2008, I remember the date because I wrote a column for the Daily News right after that. She was an unknown and she didn't have any track record. And she gets up there and she hits it out of the park, a grand slam. Probably, in my opinion, one of the 5 greatest political speeches ever delivered
It was
by an
amazing.
American politician.
Yeah, it was amazing.
So I think in a way unfairly, I was comparing him to her, but I do think it was a good speech. More importantly, he's really good. He's a great debater. And I'm disappointed that he's not going to be able to wipe the floor with Kamala because she is like the past, the present, unburdened by the future, or the past imperfect, or the subjunctive, or the conditional, or Latin, or whatever, because we are women. Hear us roar. She is such a loser when it comes to oratory. Oh, God.
It sounds like the way you're portraying her that she's a phony as well.
Oh, yes, she is, Dan. She never, but Dan, she suffered so much being the child of an educator and a scientist and growing up in the Bay Area in the bad, in the hood. She was so, you know,
I'm not buying any of it. I'm
oh
not
my
buying any of
God,
it.
that little girl on the bus, that might have
I'm
been
sure
me.
she had a thoroughly middle class or upper middle class
Of course she
upbringing,
did.
and
Just like Obama.
yeah,
Just like Obama. The one thing I have to say
right,
for Obama, he never pretended to have grown up in poverty. Never
right,
pretended. Yes, he played the race card, but
yeah,
not the race and the class card. He was pretty
right,
clear that he had a fairly privileged childhood.
yes. Now, now let's talk a little bit about the way that Biden was treated by his own party. Um, they conceivably knew all along. They covered, they lied, they deceived. One of the greatest cover ups ever. It's got to be considered one of the great cover ups.
Oh yeah,
And then
absolutely.
they knifed him.
Yeah.
And, years ago, this was the kind of thing that was played out in a back room, Christine. And some of this was, but since it's 2024, it's hard to hide this stuff anymore. And we saw the reports were leaking out. And I think it was Mark Halpern who had the exclusive and said, Biden will be going by the end of the weekend,
Right.
possibly on Sunday, and he actually nailed it.
Absolutely.
This was not fun to watch.
No. And we talked about this before too. I'm no Biden fan. Was never a Biden fan.
No, me neither.
I'm not sad to see him go for the reason being that he's just not competent any longer.
Right.
I also never liked him. I thought he was not authentic. This whole idea of, hail fellow, well met, the Scranton Joe,
Lunch
Wilmington
bucket
Joe,
Joe. Lunch
Amtrak
bucket Joe.
Joe. Yeah, I mean, I laugh. I laugh. He's got the freaking Amtrak station in
Been at
Wilmington.
the public trough for more than 50 years, 53 years at the public trough.
Exactly. So, I mean, he's not an honorable person. And I laugh at all of these, it's almost like a eulogy, a series of eulogies. I know he's still alive, although we haven't seen him, but it is like they're preparing the eulogies for him. And it's just so fake. But what they did to him was despicable. And I had compared it to, I wrote a column called a classical version of a modern betrayal, and I compared it to what Brutus did to Julius Caesar.
Right.
Brutus was Julius Caesar's adopted son, and all of the other people, Cassius and all the people who were in on the conspiracy to kill him, of all of them, the one that hurt the most, literally and figuratively, was Brutus, because he was the one that Caesar loved and Caesar trusted. And I don't know if Joe trusted the people around him, but I do think that he expected Obama and Pelosi and Schumer, who were old school Democrats. I mean, they weren't the new wing. They weren't the AOC squad people. They were the establishment. I think he figured that they were going to carry his water, and they definitely did not, especially Nancy. It's almost like it's like she's one of the worst figures in modern American history. She is calculating. She is a vote counter, but I think that I don't think there's any feeling inside of her. There's no there. She is a pure political creature. And unlike her daddy, who was mayor of Baltimore, Tommy D'Alessandro.
Yes, D'Alessandro. Her original name is Nancy D'Alessandro.
Exactly. I mean, I am ashamed to be an Italian woman who was from Baltimore, like her. A brunette, natural brunette. I just think it is very, very sad what they did, how they did it. And they fooled us. They manipulated and lied to the American people. And I'm going to say this last thing, and I'm going to let you talk. Democrats accuse Republicans of being threats to democracy, Trump supporters being threats to democracy. But who are the ones who actually overthrew a democratically elected and voted for president? The Democrats.
They subverted democracy. They subverted democracy.
Absolutely.
This was a sort of internal insurrection. Okay,
that's exactly what it was.
Yeah,
a bloodless coup. It was a bloodless
that's
coup.
What it was. It's the type of thing that happens you would say, in banana republics where you're going to have a bloodier coup, but the type of thing that happened in the Soviet Union.
Absolutely.
Same type
I compared it to the Argentinian generals when they're putsch, because no one died when the Argentinian when Juan Perón took over. No one died. It was a bloodless coup. I compared what the Democrats have done to what the Argentinian general putsch was when Perón took power.
And Biden simply disappeared. Like he disappeared for 6 days.
I know.
So days.
Desaparecido.
And now he may as well be invisible. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he may as well be invisible. Nobody's going to be covering him. He's the lamest of lame ducks.
Also, how disrespectful was it to us that this announcement came on Twitter, that they didn't even have the decency to call a press conference where he would come out and say this to the people. It was just, the Democrats have no respect for the rest of the country. And I never was this partisan before because I had been a Democrat, just like you. And I tried to you know, I tried for some moderation, but game on. I posted something on Facebook with my face up here and City Hall in the background. Game frickin' on, Dan. Everything that can be done. Joan of Arc at the Battle of Agincourt. We are not letting Kamala Harris into the Oval Office. That woman must be stopped.
I couldn't agree with you more, but let me ask you, speaking of Kamala Harris, who is she going to pick as her running mate? And I'm going to tell you, why I think it's probably not going to be Josh Shapiro.
I agree with you.
You agree with me?
100%. And I know
and
why.
Why would you say, Christine, it's not going to be Josh Shapiro?
Because Josh Shapiro, for a couple of reasons, the most important one being Josh Shapiro is Jewish, and Kamala Harris has to be very careful about the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party, which in fact invaded the Capitol today. The news is not covering it. It was on Facebook Live. There are a group of pro-Hamas. They call themselves Free Palestine people, but they're pro-terrorists. They're domestic terrorists. They're pro-Hamas people. And everybody should take a check at those students. If they're foreign students, look at their visas. But they are very vocal and very loud. They were protesting Netanyahu.
They basically took over the Capitol today, and also Kamala has not greeted Netanyahu. She's not going to be there for the speech where she should be sitting, presiding over the Senate. She's not going to be there. She's making herself scarce.
So she's going to pick a very open, vocal. The one thing, I don't like Josh Shapiro. I hate the fact that he was forcing Catholic nuns to pay for birth control for their cheapo, sexually promiscuous employees who couldn't buy their own condoms. Okay. Right. He's in their corner. He's as pro-abortion as you could be. He's a blowhard. He takes credit for I-95 when he didn't lift one finger to do it. It was the workers that did it.
Well, was he involved also in the going after the Catholic Church on the sex abuse scandal?
Oh my God!
Yeah,
he was charging ahead. He hates Catholics, so I cannot stand Josh Shapiro.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Nancy Pelosi, a political creature, an automaton of politics. Josh is her male Jewish doppelganger. But I will say, the one area in which I agree with him and I admire him is that he has been full-throated, outspokenly supportive of the Jewish community and Israel. Because of that, I don't think Kamala is going to touch him with a 10-foot pole. Because Rashida Tlaib, I don't think they're going to do it.
Yeah. So think about this. If she doesn't pick Josh Shapiro, who is observant Jew, openly observant Jew,
right?
Very Jewish,
and could help her get Pennsylvania.
Okay. If she doesn't pick him, then what the Democrat Party is saying to its long time loyal Jewish voters is, hey, listen, we appreciate you. It's okay, but just back off a little. Don't be so Jewish. Don't be so Jewish. because, you know, in the situation that we're in now, if you're too ardent, especially in your support of Israel and things like that, and you carry on too much about anti Semitism, well, it's just a little bit too uncomfortable for us. We just can't handle that. Now, you understand, you've been friends with us a long time. So just go in the corner and be quiet for a while. This is the way it seems to me,
It's
Christine.
exactly what it is. You just described one of my favorite films, which I'm sure you've seen with Gregory Peck, Gentleman's Agreement, which was about anti-Semitism back in the 1950s. And you had people who were not openly anti-Semitic. They wouldn't say, words which I'm not going to say to the face of a Jewish friend, but they would say it behind their backs. And the doors to the country clubs would be closed to them. And the doors to law firms would be closed to them, in much the same way that my Irish Catholic father was getting rejection letters from a lot of the white shoe law firms in Philadelphia, even though he was the editor of Temple University Law School's Law Review. Brilliant man.
And this was done to Italian Americans as well.
Absolutely. Well,
done to
Italian and Irish, as long, the Catholics, we were problematic, but absolutely, Italians had it too. That's why there are so many of these firms that, with the Italian firms and the Irish.
That's right. They had to start their own firms.
Exactly. And that happened to Jews, obviously. So I think what you say is absolutely correct, perceptive. And my fear, though, is that the Stockholm syndrome, that Jewish Democratic voters will vote for the Democrats regardless, that they will fall in line because they would see the alternative of Donald Trump as being unpalatable. There are a lot of conservative Jews who will vote for Trump.
Yes.
But the liberal, suburban, B'nai B'rith, Hadassah Jew is not. They're not going to vote for Donald Trump, or they may just stay home. But I say that it's like the abused wife who will not leave the house because even though she keeps getting abused and attacked and beaten down, she will not leave. For the longest time, immigrants were that way. Immigrants, blue-collar immigrant populations were the same way. They woke up and they realized that the Democrats were patronizing them. That's why, I don't know how you felt about it, but I thought when the Teamsters president spoke at the RNC, I thought that was a genius stroke on the part of Trump.
I thought it was great.
I think the speech went on a little too long.
Yes.
But I love it.
Took advantage of them, but I thought it was great.
I thought it was great. And it wasn't
and how about how respectful the delegates were?
Very much so.
And they were very respectful. Now they didn't agree with a lot of the things he said. So this was a real lesson for all of us if you were watching, that these people on the floor of the convention, these delegates of the Republican Party, were very, very respectful of this man. Yeah. I'm sure they cheered or applauded some parts that they didn't agree with, but they believed that he was worthy of a hearing, that they should hear him out.
That's even what Republicans
the
do.
most partisan event of their party, even at their party's most partisan event.
Mm-hmm. Conservatives listen, they don't cancel. Imagine if the roles were flipped and a very
imagine if somebody from the Christian Coalition spoke at the Democrat convention or something like that.
Well, Danny, we have an example of this. We have Bob Casey Sr., the good Bob Casey, not the flawed fraud, as I call him. I call Junior the flawed fraud.
Well, he's the phantom Bob Casey, the phantom.
Oh, I wish he were the phantom. I wish he would just go away. I wish he would go away. That's another job one. We got to get Dave McCormick elected in Pennsylvania. But remember, was it 91, I think, or 92, when the DNC refused to allow Bob Casey to speak because he was pro-life. And this is a blue-collar union,
That's right.
lifelong Democrat. And
Right.
they refused to do that.
That's
so,
right.
yeah, we got the big tent, Dan. We have the big tent. They have an umbrella.
I was very impressed with that. I want to say something about Trump's speech. A lot of people are carrying on about how long it was. It was like 96 minutes or something. I watched all of it. I have to admit that, when we got well into it, it was late here on the East Coast. It was late at night at the East Coast. I understand why it went on when it did, because they wanted to reach the Midwest, and parts of the West where they felt they had a chance. But certainly the Midwest and the heartland of America, which was an hour earlier or 2 hours earlier in some cases. And so I understood that. This is what the speech was to me, Christine. The first part, of course, was very, very poignant, where he described the attempt on his life, and it was unprecedented in the history of American politics. I've never experienced anything like it. And then to me, the rest of the speech was like a general coming home to his troops from the battlefield where he had been wounded.
Yeah.
And he was coming home to his troops to say, I'm okay. It's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. And so now let's have some fun. Let's joke around a little bit. Let's laugh. Let me interact with you and you interact with me. The family's back together. I'm okay. That's what it was. Like the warrior coming back.
The happy warrior. Yeah.
The happy warrior, incredibly, after everything that had happened, coming back to commiserate with his troops. And to me, from that standpoint, it was a beautiful thing to see.
When you put it that way, and that's the first time I've heard it, interpreted that way. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it was a very personal speech. It started out obviously with, a life-changing event for him, but he still channeled Donald Trump, which I think is important, because I was getting really annoyed by the people out there saying, well, he's got to moderate, he's got to be kinder and gentler, and maybe we'll like him if he does this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, you frauds, you're demanding dark Biden, dark branding. You loved the evil, the harsh, the attacking. Kamala, whatever the frig her name is, you said the same thing earlier, that she's out there, she's being a harridan and a shrew, and she's going after him like this, and everybody's like, yeah. Where is the call for moderation on her part? Where is the call for coming together and communion and kumbaya and we are the world, we are the children? They only want moderation from conservatives, and I'm finished with it. I'm done. Sono finita. No more. This is war, Danny, and I'm glad you called him a general, because this is war. I was not this energized against Joe Biden. I can't stand the man, but I was not energized. I have a visceral feeling toward Kamala. And the next 4 months, as I said, it's Joan of Arc at the Battle of Agincourt. We got to win.
So I got to ask you, as we're going to close out here, Christine, because we are 50 minutes into this. And as always,
so quick when we talk. It's so much fun.
The time goes very, very fast. And like I say, this is on LinkedIn right now. It's on Facebook right now. It's on my YouTube channel. And then I'm going to put it right after the show is over, it's going to go up on dancerucci.com.
Then I'll
So
check it.
people will, so whoever didn't see it now or is not watching it now, they'll be able to watch it in the week, days and weeks ahead. How do you think this is going to play out now from this point forward?
Well, first of all, it really depends on who the VP pick is that Kamala has. I think if she picks Roy Moore from is it North Carolina? I think he was
The governor of North Carolina?
Governor of North Carolina.
Yeah.
I think it'll be more of a kind of like a more traditional pick, and he may rein her in somewhat. If she picks Andy Beshear, who is the governor of Kentucky, that's going to be really interesting because Beshear has been going after J.D. Vance. He's been attacking J.D. Vance and saying Vance is a fraud. He's not a true a son of Appalachia. He is, and this is hilarious because Beshear was born with a silver spoon in his mouth and got his job because his daddy was governor. Okay?
Yes.
So that I'm kind of in a way hoping that she picks Beshear because I want to see J.D. Vance rip him to shreds. J.D. Vance could do it. I've seen Beshear on television.
Yeah.
He's a whiny little girl, and I would love to see that.
Well, there's a Midwest governor in this mix too. Is it the governor? Is it the governor of Minnesota, or there's a Midwest governor in this?
Is it Tim Walz? I think. Yeah, Minnesota, and then the other one is Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly from Arizona.
I think Mark Kelly, and I think that Mark Kelly may have an inside track here. He's got an incredible story. Don't forget, he's married to
Gabby Gifford.
Gabby Gifford. So there's the whole gun situation there. Okay, she was almost killed.
Plus, he's not quite as much of a. I mean, he may be very liberal, but he has not been out there like as a social crazy liberal. He can't be. Arizona is a pinkish state. Used to be very red.
May be just the reason to pick him. That may be just the reason.
That's what I'm saying. Him. Yeah, I would.
Yeah, that he's more moderate.
The only reason I'd love it if she picked Josh is that we could get rid of him in Pennsylvania. Please take him away.
No, but he would have to be elected then, Christine. He doesn't have to He doesn't have to give up the governorship to run for vice president. Only if he's elected.
I know.
You don't want him to be elected. You don't want him to be elected because then he's going to be a heartbeat away from the presidency. Oh, my. All
right, whatever. I don't want him here. I want him gone. Goodbye. Anyway.
It's been a lot of fun. I'm glad we had this chance to chat again. And we will do it again soon.
Danny, we got to do this a lot in the next 4 months. This is going to keep me sane. So we have to do
We are going to do it. We are definitely going to do it. And Christine, I hope that you, I don't know, maybe you go down the shore or something, or you go up to the mountains. You find a way to cool yourself off because I know you don't like these hot summer months. I know you. You do not like them. Your hair doesn't like them.
My hair, I know. You know what I do though, Dan? I count the number of days until September 1st, and then I go backwards to see how many days ago was that. And right now I'm working on June 15th. Right now, at June 15th, I'm thinking of where I was because that amount of days forward is September 1st. And September's always hot, but once you hit September 1st, it's almost done. So yeah, I'm almost through the summer.
Okay, I know you're not a fan, but I hope you cool off a little bit somehow, way, shape, or form, and we will be back together again soon, everybody.
Yes, very soon. Love you. Big hug and kiss to Carol, okay? And to those 7 grandkids too, okay?
Absolutely, I will give them all your love. I promise. Okay.
All right, Danny. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.